Hey everybody, it's Spear, and we are closing out, finally, the Archetype 101s for Set 13 Supreme Rivalry with the one and only Mechikabura, this time representing himself in a Wish deck, which is the comeback to the Wish mechanic, which is super sweet to always see make its comeback into the game. They were super impactful when they came in the first place, and now we have a return to them, this time in black, which is very exciting. But of course, guys, before we get started, if you want to pick up any of the cards I talked about in today's video, I have to point you guys over to 3 Mana Inc., the best place in Canada to get your DBS singles and sealed product guaranteed. And if you want to see myself pilot decks like these, we're always doing fun stuff on stream every Monday through Thursday and on weekends for tournaments, so link to all of that is down in the description. But with that said, let's just jump right into the archetype. So the quick overview basically being that this is a warp oriented archetype, but not in your own front. You're doing what Shroom and Salsa was doing in previous sets, where you're basically sending cards to your opponent's warp and getting advantages based on cards being in your opponent's warp afterwards. Additionally, it's a very removal heavy archetype, not only in the form of actually sending your opponent's battle cards to warp, some of which are so cost efficient, but additionally because you're also taking over your opponent's battle cards, which is a big theme in this archetype. Of course, it all starts with the leader. So we have Mechikabura. Permanent, you can only include up to 7 Dark Dragon Ball cards in your deck. So this is just to make sure that you can't include like all the different, multicolor archetypes, because Dark Dragon Balls come in every color for all the different parasitic battle cards, right? And then Mechikabura is going to have his own as well, all of which technically fall into being able to be used for this permanent. Then auto win this card attacks, add up to 2 Dark Dragon Ball cards from your deck and or life to your hand. Shuffle any area you look through using this skill. So very much the Shenron ability of being able to find multiple. And then finally, Wish, when you have 7 Dark Dragon Ball cards in your drop area, you may draw 1 card, switch up to 1 your energy to active mode, then your opponent sends 1 battle card from their drop area to their warp, flip this card over. So this is very strong, just effectively having removal on your awaken, making it a free removal is super clutch, especially when there's no, conditionals. It's just a battle card gets sent to warp, and that's going to be a big heavy theme we see with the rest of the cards here. Moving on over to the Awakened side, we have Dark King Mechikabura restored to the throne. Auto when this card attacks, draw 1 card, and then activate main once per turn. If all of your energy is black and you choose 1 card in your hand and place it in the bottom of your deck, choose 1. You have to choose 1 of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 4 or less and negated skills for the turn. Switch that card to active mode, gain control of it. And this is really where we're going to see a lot of the game, control stuff. They do have their skills negated, however. So the perk is that you don't actually end up, getting like big triple strikers and blah blah all for free. They are basically going to be a vanillas, but they're vanillas that you're getting every single turn, and it doubles as removal because you're getting rid of it on your opponent's board. Otherwise, we can remove 7 Dark Dragon Ball cards in your drop area from the game. If you do, this card gains triple attack for the turn. Triple attack, definitely one of the more powerful keywords moving into, this set forward, just because of how much you want to attack multiple times with cards. It's why we see the Bardock TP card, the overall one, being so much more than anything else, just because, getting big, beefy, multiple attacks in with 1 card can be very impactful, and you're less prone to things that like negate skills or so on and so forth. It is costly. You are sending a card from the bottom of your deck, so it's going to cost you a card in hand to do either of these abilities, but regardless, they're very strong abilities that for 1 card and 0 energy cost, effectively, you can deal with a lot of different things that your opponent is throwing at you. Then, of course, we can't talk about Wish Layer without talking about the Dragon Balls that they use. And here we have Yearning for the Dark Dragon Balls. 0 cost permanent, you can include up to 7 copies of this card in your deck, so all 7 can be these if you want them to be. Then the other permanent, this card gains Dark Dragon Ball in all areas. Then it has 2 activates, first one being Activate Main. If your lead card is a Black Demon Realm race card, your opponent chooses 1 of their battle cards when it costs 1 and sends it to their owner's warp. So you get rid of silver bullets, which is a decent way to be able to use them. It's just free removal basically, and a lot of silver bullets can be really annoying, so this really makes sure that your opponent's Black Mass Saiyans aren't going to stick on board. Then Activate Battle, you get to choose up to 1 of your cards and gets 5k power for the battle, effectively making it a comboable extra card, which is always nice to see. But don't forget, there are all the parasitic balls that you could use instead of these. So these can be used in combination with any other archetype that you want to splash into the deck that you're playing if you want to try and mess around with those things. Now, there are some mono black things that you have to keep in mind, things that want mono black, but it is something that you can experiment with if you want to start using other balls. Then moving forward to the finisher of the deck, the big thing that we're trying to close out with is going to be Dark King Mechikabura, power restored, 8 cost, 30k, deflect, double striker. It is going to hit the board, which means it's going to get its auto if your opponent has 4 or more cards in their warp, which is very, very easy to do with this deck. When this card is played, choose all your opponent's battle cards and send them to their owner's warps. Then choose up to 2 battle cards in your opponent's warp with an energy cost of 7 or less and different card names. Negate their skills for the game and play them in your battle area. You can't play non-black battle cards for the turn. So you're effectively getting a 30k double striker as well as 2 chunky bodies. You know, at 7 drop, they can be anywhere from 10ks to 30ks, 35ks even, depending on the card. So these are some very powerful, a lot of stuff on board. But again, they're all vanillas. Their skills are negated. It's something you have to keep in mind with this card. Then as an activate main for quad black, if your leader card is a Mechikabura only card, play this card from your hand. So you're not paying it for the 8. With Mechikabura specifically, he's only going to cost you 4. So 4 for basically 3 bodies, one of which is double strike, can represent a lot of pressure to your opponent, especially if your board already has all the other stuff that you were able to play out before. So the drop warp, a lot of this archetype is focused around getting cards in your opponent's warp, and there's a ton of ways to do that that also benefit you for just doing it in the first place. Starting off, we have Demon God Toa Ritual at hand, 4 cost 10k blocker, so defensively she's there to protect you. Then auto, when this card is played, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and send it to its owner's warp. Your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand, sends it to the warp, and draws 1 card. So here you're placing a card in your opponent's hand, which is fine, but it's one of those things where if your opponent doesn't have a battle card on board, you can still send something to warp. And this is what this archetype does really well, in contrast to what Truman Salsa was doing beforehand, where you have multiple ways of being able to rip out cards and send them to your opponent's warp on a single card, which makes it very efficient, especially with the activate main for 1 black if your leader card is a Toa or Mechikabura. So it's nice that Toa gets a little bit of support on this front as well. Card, and you have 2 or more Dark Dragon Ball cards in your drop area. Play this card from your hand, and then place up to 2 Dark Dragon Ball cards from your deck to your drop area. Shuffle your deck if you look through it. So now, not only are we turboing our awakening, we have a really cheap way of being able to play Toa. For 1 cost, you get to remove any of your opponent's battle cards. No conditions. It is so strong, so efficient at what it does. Then we have Shroom Ritual at hand, 4 cost 15k auto. If you have 2 or more energy, when this card attacks, your opponent chooses a battle card in their drop area and send it to their warp. Then you choose up to 1 of their battle cards when energy cost of 3 or less and send it to owner's warp. Then you get to play it for activate main 1 black if your leader card is a Mechikabura only card and you have 2 or more Dark Dragon Balls in your drop area. Play this card from your hand, then up to 2 Dragon Ball cards from your deck to the drop area. Shuffle if you look through it. So again, very efficient. 1 cost is not as powerful as a Toa, but he's an attacker instead of defender, and he still hits 3 or less, which, you know, depending on the archetypes that are being played right now, it can still hit a decent amount of stuff. Then we have Shroom. Of course, we have Salsa Ritual at hand, 4 cost 15k auto. When this card is played, your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand, sends their warp, and draws 1 card. So they replace a card in their hand, so it gives them some cycling, but it's adding a card to the warp. Then auto, when this card attacks, your opponent chooses 1 battle card in their drop area and sends it to the warp. Draw 1 card, and you can't activate auto skills on copies of this card for the turn. So you get to draw a card, which is nice. It'll replace itself on its first swing. You can't do it multiple times, which just kind of sucks, but it makes sense considering it doesn't have unique, and once again, it'll be able to play itself for 1 black, assuming you have 2 balls in your drop, and you're able to turbo yourself 2 more. So awakening, not going to be an issue for this archetype. Then we have Mechikabura Ritual at hand, 1 cost 4k auto. When this card is played, draw a card. Gotta love our cantrips, especially when they have an activate main for 1 black. If your lead card is a Mechikabura only card, look at the top 7 cards from the top of your deck. Play up to 1 black Toa, Shroom, or Sauce card with an energy cost of 4 and 15k power or less among them. Shuffle your deck, and then you can't activate main on copies of this card for the turn. So now, not only do the cards themselves have a 1 cost way of being able to hit the board, but Mechikabura has a 1 cost way of being able to just play them on board. So you're getting so much free value and board presence based on such cheap costs. For 2 energy, you can play out 2 of the big ones, or you can play Mechikabura and another big one. So it just really allows you to be able to play out a huge amount of bodies that all accrue you great forms of value, especially since the Mechikabura is playing them from your deck, so you're not even losing hand size for this. Then to wrap up all of the drop warp, we have Demon God Gravy Ritual hand, 2 cost 50k auto. Once per turn, when this card attacks, your opponent may send 1 battle card from their drop area to their warp. If they don't, this card gets 15k power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So it's going to be a 30k. It's kind of obnoxious. You know, it's not as effective as the other ones at doing the thing, but it can turn into a big beefy attacker if your opponent doesn't have a way to get rid of a battle card. So you can punish them on that front. But he doesn't play for Mechikabura, so he's going to cost you hard too, but he's not limited to the Mechikabura archetype. So making it a bit more freeform based on any deck that wants to use them. Moving on to the payoffs, we have Dark Mask King, Pursuit of Power, 4k permanent. If your opponent has 2 or more energy and 1 or more battle cards in their warp, this card gets 6k power and can attack your opponent's battle cards in active mode. So you can get rid of any 10k things or 5k things or whatever that your opponent might just be sticking on board. And then activate main for 1 black. If your opponent has 5 or more cards in their warp, choose up to 1 Black King Vegeta Xeno card with an energy cost of 6 from your deck or hand, play it on top of this card in active mode, then shuffle your deck. You look through it so you can board control, and then you can get the restand to go into King Vegeta, A Kingdom Lost. 6 cost 19k unique double strike barrier, so once he hits the board, he's going to be very annoying to get rid of. Auto, when this card is played, choose up to 1 card in your opponent's hand or up to 1 of their battle cards and send it to the owner's warp. Flexible, it can get rid of anything, so very efficient removal once again for this deck. And auto, once per turn, if this card is in rest mode, when your opponent attacks a leader card, your opponent chooses one of the cards in their hand and sends their warp. So it's only once per turn, so it's not a super hard punish, but it will tax your opponent if they opt to deal with you before dealing with this card. And then activate main for double black. If your opponent has 3 or more cards in their warp, play this card from your hand. So now not only can we evo on it basically from the Dark Mask King, but we can just straight up play him for 2. So again, multiple ways to play out these battle cards for a very efficient cost. And then we have Dark Shenron Wicked Wishmaster, 2 cost 20k permanent. This card can attack, very typical of any Shenron card. Auto, once per turn, if your leader card is black, when a battle card in your opponent's drop area is sent to their warp by one of your skills, draw 1 card, then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and send it to its owner's warp. So again, free removal, and this is just so good because you're already doing what the deck wants to do, which is warping. And then on top of warping, you get to remove 1 of your opponent's battle cards. There's no condition. You can hit anything you want outside of cards that have barrier. Plus it draws a card. So now you're netting a card on top of already doing the stuff that you want to do anyways. It's a lot of free stuff, which is really good. And activate main, if your lead card is a Mechikabura card and you choose one of your black Unison cards with the Rejuvenate skill, place this card under the chosen card from your hand, then add a marker to the card. You can't activate the activate main skill on this card for the turn. So just pumping up our Unisons as well as giving him the card to be able to rejuvenate, which is just a nice bonus on top of just being a totem that sits on board and gives us additional payoffs for doing the stuff we already want to do. And then there's the defensive card, this Archetype being one that can also use Supreme Type Labyrinth Unleashed. 5k 3 cost counterattack, negate the attack and play this card permanent if you or your opponent have 3 or more cards in their warp. That's why it works for both this Archetype as well as the Supreme Taiwan. Reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 2, making it a 1 cost counter attack that also, if your lead card is black, when this card is played using its counter attack skill, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and send it to its owner's warp, which kind of feeds into more of your warp synergy if you don't have what you need right away. At the end of the turn, play any cards sent to the warp by the skill to its owner's battle area with their skills negated for the turn, so the on plays don't trigger once more. Then Clash of the Masked Warriors, 1 cost activate battle, choose 1 of your opponent's Unison cards. Your opponent may remove a marker from that card, which would be able to remove any skills it gained based on any of its plus abilities. If they don't, your leader card doesn't take damage from attacks using their Unison's strike abilities for the battle, which is cool. It means you can protect yourself from double strike and stuff if, let's say, that 1 marker and they really can't get rid of it. So it's this nice dual utility of being able to protect yourself from Unisons, which is nice to see because we haven't had a ton of great answers to Unisons so far in the game. Then we have Demon God Poutine Ritual at hand, 2 cost 15k counterattack. If your lead card is a black Mechikabura only card, negate the attack and play this card. Auto, if your opponent's turn and you choose 1 card in your hand and place at the bottom of your deck. When this card is played, your opponent can't attack for the turn unless they choose 2 cards in their hand and send them to the warp each time. So now this archetype gets its own topo, which is really sweet, a very flexible topo. It's only specific to Mechikabura, but it's a great defensive card to help you extend the longevity of your deck if you're trying to get to the later turns of the game. And to wrap it up, we have Darkness Judgment, 1 cost counterattack, negate the attack permanent. If your opponent has 3 or more cards in their warp, you can activate this card's activate battle skill from your hand without paying its energy cost. Activate battle if your lead card is Mechikabura only card. And it's your opponent's turn. Choose 1 of your cards and it gets 5k power for the turn, so you're effectively beating yourself, which is cool. Option tab on a negate. You can either use it as a negate, or you can use it on a beam depending what your opponent is doing. So it's great flexibility. If your opponent's going big, you can negate. If your opponent's going wide, you can beam. So it's a lot of great flexibility in an option card. Then we have the Unison Black Smoke Dragon, Offering of Destruction, no specified cost, 15k rejuvenate once per turn. If your leader card is black and you remove 4 markers from this card, then you get to gain a life. Of course, you have to have a card under it as well to get rid of. Permanent, this card can't attack, very typical of Shenron's. Activate main, once per turn, add a marker to this card. And -1, activate main, your opponent sends 1 battle card from their drop area to the warp. You place up to 2 Black Dragon Balls from your deck to your drop area, shuffle your deck, and draw 1 card. So you're drawing a card, and you get to turbo your Awaken. Nothing too crazy, but hey, it is something that the deck can do to be able to help you in getting to your Awaken side, as well as being able to start feeding your opponent's warp. And that covers Wish Mechikabura, a sweet archetype that accrues so much value. It is so efficient, it has so much removal, and just does a lot of what a deck wants to do. And you get payoffs for doing that just for free. So this archetype is super, super good, and definitely one to keep your eyes out for as we move into the release of set 13. But with that said, guys, that's all the Archetype 101s. We are completely done for Supreme Rivalry, but Lord knows we'll get these spoilers for the next set sometime soon, and we'll have to jump back on that train for now. But with that said, guys, hey, if you like the videos, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike it, thumbs down. If you want to watch more of my videos, of course, when the next set comes, we'll drop more of these Archetype 101s. Otherwise, we do discussion videos, we do gameplay, all that jazz. Subscribe buttons in the corner. With that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Ciao.